let's start with this, okay? Everything has a price. Everything you do, every choice you make, you pay a price for it. I have lived a certain kind of life. I will tell you, I am more or less proud of the life I lived. If I ever slept at night, it would help me sleep at night. I have spoken my mind. I have said what I've had to say, and I've paid a price. I mean, I've talked about this, that I can barely get arrested in Hollywood. That cost me a lot of money. Yeah, my books, it's very hard for me to sell books overseas now because of the political correctness that's rampant over there. You know, I paid a price. But on the other hand, I know the guys who didn't speak their mind. I know the guys who kind of looked at their shoes and said, oh, I don't want to say anything. It's going to cost me. They still have jobs in Hollywood. I look in their eyes. I know they paid a price too. Some prices you can see, some prices you can't see. But everything, every decision you make is a price. Voting for Donald Trump was one of the easiest decisions I ever made and one of the hardest things I ever had to do, because it was clear to me that he was the better choice of the people we had for president. He's been a much better president than I feared he might be. He's been a very good president, but he does stuff that hurts him and hurts us. He's not, he's got some kind of mental glitch. Sometimes it's political. He's always got his political instincts cooking, but I said before that when the midterms happened, he kind of got it. He pulled back a little bit. And I said at the time, I don't think he's going to be able to keep that going because of his personality traits. And I think that's happening right this minute. The guy has been a good president. A lot of never-Trumpers say, well, all his achievements are temporary. Sure, he lowered taxes, but the Democrats will come in, they'll just put the taxes back. Yes, he cut regulations, but he didn't get rid of the regulatory agencies, so they'll just put the regulations right back. Whatever it is, yes, they're going to stack the Supreme Court. Whatever it is, they say he's temporary. A lot of the same people who tell me that his achievements are temporary told me that Obama's non-achievements were going to last, and I said they wouldn't because they were all executive orders. I was right about that. The one thing is, it's not temporary when you free Yazidi women from sexual slavery. That's not temporary. That's permanent, right? When they get out, when they're freed from sexual slavery of these horrible, horrible Islamists who took over this huge section of the Middle East in the person of ISIS, that's permanent. When a guy gets a job, I was just out in Pennsylvania where so many of the coal mines and the steel mills closed and so many people were put out of work and so many families were disturbed, and all that addiction happens because men especially are unemployed. Now the frackers are there and people are coming back and the jobs are coming back, and Trump has done a lot of this. And that stuff, when you give a man his dignity back, when you give him his employment back, when you give him his pride back and he can sit with his family and know he's supporting his family, that's not temporary. And, they talk about in the economics, they talk about bubbles. Oh, well, it's just a bubble. If a bubble lasts for a long period of time, because life is short, like if a bubble lasts for 25 years, for 30 years, a man can have an entire career and build up a savings and build up a retirement fund in that time. That's not temporary. That's not a bubble. After a while, nothing lasts forever. So some of the stuff that Trump has done has been incredibly important. And when you're sitting in a think tank and you're thinking about the abstract future of the nation, and you're thinking, yes, but once Trump is gone, then this will happen and that's happened. Okay, I get that. That's fair. But it doesn't have to do with the lives that he has changed for the better. And that is a real thing. And these were people who were forgotten. These people were forgotten by both the intellectuals on the right and the globalist elitists on the left. Okay, so he has done a lot of good things. He was outside yesterday with a map of ISIS. This was a completely fair point. He held up this map. Just watch and listen to what he says.
No, we're in Syria. We're leaving 200 people there and 200 people in another place in Syria, closer to Israel, for a period of time. This is a map of everything in the red. This was on election night in 2016. Everything red is ISIS. When I took it over, it was a mess. Now, on the bottom, that's the exact same. There is no red. In fact, there's actually a tiny spot which will be gone by tonight. So that's ISIS, red right there. And the bottom one is how it is today. This just came out 20 minutes ago. So this is ISIS on election day, my election day, and this is ISIS now. So that's the way it goes.
That's the way it goes. That is a perfectly legit point. Utterly legit. When Obama was there with that leading from behind, it's a generational fight. It took him 10 minutes to say, go in there and kill these people, isolate them, kill them, get rid of them. It matters. Now you're going to read all the think pieces. And these, again, it's legit to have the think pieces about the fact, well, the ISIS philosophy is now going to metastasize and now going to spread out. And that's true. Obviously, Trump is not God. He can't erase evil from the minds of men. But this is important. John Bolton was talking about this. Here's Bolton's point about it.
The president has been, I think, as clear can be when he talks about the defeat of the ISIS territorial caliphate. He has never said that the elimination of the territorial caliphate means the end of ISIS in toto. We know that's not the case. We know right now that there are ISIS fighters scattered still around Syria and Iraq, and that ISIS itself is growing in other parts of the world. The ISIS threat will remain, but one reason that the president has committed to keeping an American presence in Iraq and a small part of an observer force in Syria is against the possibility that there would be a real resurgence of ISIS, and we would then have the ability to deal with that if that arose. So I think people have to be clear, and the importance of the territorial caliphate goes to an ideological point at the center of ISIS's theory of itself, namely that they were a caliphate because under their view of what a caliphate is, you have to control territory.
A very big deal, that last thing he said, the caliphate controlling the territory. Yes, the ISIS idea is still there. Trump has no power to erase that. Nobody has the power to erase that. But the idea that they had a caliphate was very appealing to young men. That was part of their philosophy. Oh, we're going to establish the caliphate. And there it was, the caliphate, that big red blotch that Trump was holding up on that map, that red blotch is gone. And that's an amazing thing. And that's not a temporary victory. That is a true victory. And the people who are being oppressed, these are horrible, horrible people. And the way they treat women is absolutely appalling. The way they treat everybody is absolutely appalling. They have no ability to govern. They have the ability to kill and maim and oppress, but they have no ability to govern. I feel bad for Muslims who are just living their lives and praying their prayers. And I know there are a lot of them. And they just want to live their lives and pray their prayers. But they have to speak out about this. They have to speak out about this. I feel the same way about Catholics that there is a problem with sexual malfeasance in the Catholic Church. Maybe some of it's been erased, maybe it's better now, but it's all being exposed. And I think that good Catholics, decent Catholics, have to speak out. I don't know. I'm not a Catholic, so I don't know if that sexual malfeasance has to do with Catholic ideas about sexuality, but that's a debate I would certainly listen to. I'd like to hear. The same thing with Islam. There's a problem with worldwide violence in the House of Islam. I'm not a Muslim. I can't say for sure that this is keyed into their philosophy, that it is endemic to their philosophy, but that's a debate I would like to listen to, and it will only come about if decent Muslims come out and say, hey, I'm embarrassed by this. This is embarrassing to me that people behave like this, that treat women like this, that they enslave women and kill people. This is an embarrassment to me. This is why people like Ilhan Omar and Linda Sarsour and Rashida Tlaib, these people are damaging. They're damaging because they don't speak out. They don't say these things. And, Linda Sarsour tells you Sharia law is a wonderful thing. Sharia law is an atrocity. It's an atrocity. And I think that Muslims who want to live their lives, they have to talk about this. I know it's dangerous because they'll come and kill you, but you have to speak out about this because this is a problem. All right. So Trump has done wonderful things. So he goes to Ohio to a tank manufacturer, and the tanks manufacturer is doing well. Why? Because Trump is restoring a military that Obama went out of his way to nearly destroy. He nearly left us helpless. He nearly left us defenseless. Trump is spending the money that has to be spent to restore our military. As Ronald Reagan used to say, it's not a budget item. It's a necessity. You have to do it. In 18 months, the last 18 months, Trump has brought something like 500,000 manufacturing jobs back to the country. Those are the jobs that Obama said you would need a magic wand to bring back. A magic wand to bring back. I don't know what magic he thinks he has that he's going to bring back these manufacturing jobs. Trump brought them back, 500,000 of them. It is now the lowest unemployment in history for low-educated workers without a high school education. These are the people that Trump said he would help. He has helped them. And like I said, giving a man a job, letting him, sit with pride with his family, letting him support his family, letting him feel useful and be useful in the world is a permanent victory if those jobs last. The salaries of uneducated people are up 6%, which is more than other salaries, and other wages are also rising. And so, so this is something that he can talk about and something that he should talk about. And you know, one of the reasons this matters so much is when the left comes in and they pull all these new socialist ideas that they think are so popular and it destroys the economy, it will be really clear what happened. We won't have to argue about what happened. It will be really clear that socialism does this to economies. So Trump goes and he gives this speech. And what does he do? He goes off on John McCain. And I'm going to talk about this in a minute because I know what some of you are thinking, and I'm going to respond to it in a minute. This is the first cut about McCain, cut 2.
So I have to be honest, I've never liked him much. Hasn't been for me. I've really probably never will. But there are certain reasons for it, and I'll tell you. And I do this to save a little time with the press later on. John McCain received a fake and phony dossier. Do you hear about the dossier? It was paid for by crooked Hillary Clinton. Right? And John McCain got it. He got it. And what did he do? Didn't call me. He turned it over to the FBI, hoping to put me in jeopardy. And that's not the nicest thing to do. You know, when those people say, because I'm a very loyal person. John McCain campaigned for years to repeal and replace Obamacare. For years in Arizona, great state. I love the people of Arizona. But he campaigned for years for repeal and replace. So did Rob, so did a lot of senators. When he finally had the chance to do it, he voted against repeal and replace. He voted against at 2 o'clock in the morning. Remember, thumbs down.
So, you know, I could tell that Trump, this was written into the speech. This was not ad lib. Some of it was ad lib, but I mean, some of it was written into the speech. And what he was trying to do, I think, was he was trying to explain why he had gone off on McCain on Twitter because he got bad press for it. And I think, as he said, I'm saying this to save time of explaining this to the press. So that's why he was making it in the speech. Now, here's what I know a lot of you are thinking. McCain stank. McCain was a bad senator. McCain-Feingold was a disaster. His vote not to repeal and replace, Trump is absolutely right. It was a betrayal. It was a betrayal of his. He ran on it. He promised to do it. He didn't. He voted it down. I'm sure he did it to get back at Trump. His weak sauce campaign against Barack Obama was sacrificial lamb stuff. It was about his own honor, and it wasn't about the country. And he gave us, I mean, he helped to give us Obama. Even I had a hard time voting for him. And his personal complaint, Trump's personal complaint about him, about the Steele dossier, is true. Apparently, McCain got hold of the Steele dossier, all that stuff about, you know, the prostitutes in Russia, all that nonsense that has been, and he passed it around Washington. He had an aide pass it around Washington, hoping it would leak to the press, and finally BuzzFeed ran with it, okay, which was, you know, it was a despicable, you can say anything about anybody. The press should not have been running it. Everybody has this idea, oh, we have to save America from Donald Trump. And instead, they've plunged themselves and the country into the muck of their own leftism and their own dishonesty. I'm not arguing with what McCain said, but and I know this St. John McCain stuff in the left-wing press also drives people nuts. It drives me nuts. You know, this St. John, oh, how wonderful John McCain. When John McCain was running for president, the New York Times ran a completely unsubstantiated piece about him having a mistress. Completely unsubstantiated, completely unproven. They ran this huge piece that really it was embarrassing. I mean, if you could be embarrassed for the New York Times, which is now a former newspaper, you would have been embarrassed for it. They loved McCain because he was the maverick, meaning he was kind of a liberal. They loved McCain because he wasn't a typical Republican. He wasn't a conservative until he ran against their guy, Obama, and then they ripped him to pieces, and they did anything they could to stop him, and he was angry all the time, and they portrayed him as this little angry imp, you know. So this whole idea that now he's dead, he's in newspaper heaven, is garbage. Okay, get it all. There's a price you pay for everything. If your spouse is doing something that is legitimately wrong, spending too much money, he or she is not paying attention to the budget, putting you guys in jeopardy. Do you go to your spouse and say, look, idiot, stop spending so much money? Or do you go to your spouse and say, sit down, we have to talk, you know, I love you, but, okay. The way you say things and where you say things and when you say things and about whom you say it, these matter. These matter. 7 months, the guy was a war hero. He was a legit war hero. I mean, the real deal. He was also a senator. He spent his life in service to the country. I didn't agree with him. I didn't like him. But the guy did what he did, and he's gone. There's nobody there to fight with. He can't punch back. It's, talk about punching down. That's punching down below the ground. I mean, listen to this part about the funeral. I talked about it in the opening, but it is kind of hilarious,
I endorsed him at his request, and I gave him the kind of funeral that he wanted, which as president, I had to approve. I don't care about this. I didn't get thank you. That's okay. We sent him on the way, but I wasn't a fan of John McCain. So now what we could say is, now we're all set. I don't think I have to answer that question, but the press keeps, what do you think of McCain? What do you think? Not my kind of guy, but some people like him, and I think that's great.
I gave him at a funeral, and he never calls. I gave him a funeral, and where did he thank me? I mean, it's just absurd, and it's small, and it's petty. And here's the thing, okay? There's two things about this. Well, you know what? First, let's just play. How can you blame, even if you hate McCain, even if you didn't like him, even if you agree with President Trump step by step, which I kind of do. I kind of agree with his assessment of McCain. Even so, you can't blame McCain's longtime friends from coming out and defending him, and as Meghan McCain defended him on The View. And here's Senator Johnny Isakson, I think from Georgia.
It's deplorable what he said. That's what I called it from the floor of the Senate 7 months ago. It will be deplorable 7 months from now if he says it again. And I will continue to speak out, because there's one thing that we've got to do. You may not like immigration. You may not like this. You may not like that. You may be a Republican. You may not be a Democrat. We're all Americans. There aren't Democrat casualties and Republican casualties on the battlefield. There are American casualties. And we should never reduce the service that people give to this country, including the offering of their own life, to anything but political fodder in Washington, D.C., or anywhere else for that matter.
Okay, so two things about this, right? One, and probably the more important one, it hurts him with undecided voters. It hurts him with those people, the women, the suburbanites who didn't vote, who voted Democrat in the midterms, even though they voted for Trump or voted Republican, Republican in the general, who voted against him in the midterms because they just don't like the man. Now, that may be shallow, that may be wrong, but they do it, and it hurts him with those people, and it means that we lose. It means we lose voters, right? That's the first thing. That's the political consideration. And secondly, the impulse to protect your own, which I understand in the world as it is, the impulse to protect your own means you're sitting there going like, yeah, go get that dead guy. Yeah, you tell that war hero all the mistakes he made. You tell people about that because he's dead and he can't get back at you. And that's the way we ought to be. It degrades you. It degrades you. I'm sorry. There's a price you pay for everything. I think it is important to me that Trump wins. It's important to me that he goes forward. But no, that's not the way people behave. That is not the way you cannot condone that behavior because it degrades you. And here is what's at stake, okay? I don't know if you heard about this in New Zealand where they had the horrible shooting. They just banned in a big hurry. They just used the emotion that was generated by that atrocity and they banned basically all semi-automatic weapons. Here is their prime minister.
Today I'm announcing that New Zealand will ban all military-style semi-automatic weapons. We will also ban all assault rifles. We will ban all high-capacity magazines. We will ban all parts with the ability to convert semi-automatic or any other type of firearm into a military-style semi-automatic weapon. We will ban parts that cause a firearm to generate semi-automatic, automatic, or close to automatic gunfire. In short, every semi-automatic weapon used in the terrorist attack on Friday will be banned in this country.
Now, that's a really good law because it means the next time somebody does this, because the guy who does this doesn't care what she bans, is completely indifferent to what Jacinda Ardern bans. He doesn't care. The guy's going to do this next. But one thing she has ensured is that no one will be able to defend themselves against it. That's the one thing she has ensured. And you don't think they want to do that here? You don't think that's where the Democrats are heading? Let's go to the Democrat publicity department, CNN, Brooke Baldwin. Listen to her react to this.
Did you notice how quickly New Zealand is taking action on guns? 72 hours after this attack. At least one gun shop owner is refusing to sell certain guns and the magazines that enable them to use more bullets. New Zealand's biggest online auction site has banned semi-automatics and associated accessories, saying that it is clear public sentiment has changed. That's a quote. My point is this: they have all come together to try and find a solution as fast as possible so this doesn't become routine. Routine? In America, it's just the opposite. Instead of coming together to come up with concrete solutions like this, each side runs back to its partisan corners. Sales of guns often go up after mass shootings. It is a crisis in America, no matter which side you are on.
Not a crisis to me. That's not a crisis to me that people go and buy guns when they have to defend themselves. Why is it good for it to be fast? Why is it good for it to be fast? Charlie Cook over at National Review, who's one, he's now an American citizen, but he has this plummy English accent, and he is one of the most intelligent defenders of the Second Amendment. And I said to him once, why do we have to listen to a defense of our Constitution in your plummy accent? And he said, I'm doing the job most Americans won't do. So he wrote a piece at National Review, a great piece called Quick, Act Before Anyone Can Debate You. And he says, one doesn't have to be opposed to strict gun control, as I am, to find the argument for haste both dangerous and a little creepy. Indeed, I am struggling to imagine many other circumstances in which the suggestion would be as uncritically repeated. Some of the worst legislation in all of history has been passed in the middle of crises or in the immediate aftermath of tragedies that engendered extreme emotional responses. Invariably, don't listen to the naysayers is bad, bad advice. So too is, if the government is swift, it can do anything it wants to do. And as for don't let the dissenters show you they are good people, well, I'll let you decide whether you want to live in any country that heeds that counsel. Patience, consultation, consideration, these are not bad words. Haste, that's the enemy of freedom and of good government too. Thank goodness that our system tends to be slow. All praise to our checks against the transient and the frenzied. This is like the Electoral College. Gun confiscation, the rush to overcome your common sense and your logic and your traditions and your history and your Constitution in the wake of a tragedy so that you're all emotional. The same thing with the Electoral College. It's all about wresting power away from the people and giving it to the government. All those people that you heard Hillary Clinton talking about yesterday and a million times before, all those deplorables out there who are not forward-looking and who don't like you because of the color of your skin in her imagination, all those people have guns, and it makes it a little harder to do the things you want to do to them. Same thing with Brexit. Why can't they have Brexit? Because no one in the political class wants Brexit, because it gives the power to the people and admits that the power is with the people. This is a movement that is ongoing in the left wing, in the Democrat Party. It's a movement to tip the balance of power forever to the side of government control. It is what it is. It's a movement, and they will do it if Trump loses, and he will lose if he doesn't get hold of himself and behave like a human being. I'm telling you, you can back him all you want. You should back him because he's all we've got. But just remember, there's a price you pay for everything, and there's a price you pay for that kind of bad behavior.